right, welcome back to another episode of Conversations with Dom, where we help guide your tech journey one story at a time. Hey there, tech explorers. I'm your host, Dominic Gomes. Today, we're diving in to everything in the tech universe, from mentorship to scaling your career. Before we kick off, quick request for all our viewers here: please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support lets us know that you like what we're saying and that you want to see more of our content. So now today, let's jump right into today's conversation. Got a fantastic guest, Lucia Gomes. And as you notice, her last name is the same as mine. Well, Lucia and I go back to 1998. She's in fact my youngest sister. And she's also gone through a number of career changes since she graduated college, where right now she's a customer success manager. So Lucia, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, obviously we are siblings, so, but tell us a little bit more about where you're at, where you live, all that good stuff.
Yeah, thanks, Dom. Like Dominic said, I'm his youngest sister. So we've got a big family, youngest of 6, from Morgan Hill in California. Went to school at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, and, have had lots of changes and, different routes in my career, but am now here as a customer success manager. So yeah, lots of changes have happened.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, thanks again for being here, Lucia. And well, let's be real. You're doing me a favor too as well. So thank you. But yeah, so I mean, I think you have a great story in the sense that there's a lot of people that listen to our show that are in your age group, I would say, but then also people that have gone from, I would say, a non-traditional tech, background into tech. So why don't we start there? So I remember when you went to Cal Poly, you were like, I'm going to be a civil engineer. So
Yep.
Tell us how you got from being a civil engineer all the way to becoming a customer success manager. Let's start there.
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing with Cal Poly slow is that when you join the school, you declare a major, and pretty much from the very beginning, you start taking courses that will lead you to that degree. I didn't really know what civil engineering was, but I really liked math. So that's kind of what I applied as, and then quickly realized it wasn't going to be for me. So made the choice to switch majors. And then decided on economics. I had taken, a class in high school, and, I really like math. So I thought it would be a good fit. So made that switch, got my degree in economics. And during that time period, I had, done internships and some like campus jobs relating to accounting. So after I graduated from SLO, decided that I wanted a bit more education and background in accounting. So I did the certificate of advanced accounting proficiency at Santa Clara. And this was all during, the pandemic. So everything was virtual. Did that during the summer and basically took, I think it was like close to 8 different courses during that summer. And it like made me eligible then to sit for the CPA exam. So that's kind of what I thought my path was going to be, sitting for those exams, becoming a CPA, and really like focusing in on the accounting, career in life. So, I mean, I did that and I liked, accounting and everything. I worked a bit in fund accounting with a firm that, I found through the program, and then realized that wasn't for me. So I switched to, more of like a staff accountant role where I like focused in on accounts payable, accounts receivable, all of that. But still didn't feel like it was the right career for me. So I then found my current job because they were looking for people with, background in accounting. And so it seemed like a good switch for me because I really did want something more customer facing, actually interacting with people, and like more so just leveraging that experience I had in accounting, but not necessarily doing the accounting. But yeah.
So even taking a pause there in the sense of when you so you studied economics, like you mentioned, and you were doing these campus jobs, and that was your first sort of exposure to accounting. I guess originally when you got into economics, was there a different type of career you were thinking you were going to get out of that, or did it just you weren't sure what you wanted to do?
I had no idea what I wanted to do. I really picked economics because it is pretty broad. You can go to it like through a lot of different avenues with it. And like, during that switch, like, part of the prerequisites is taking some of those accounting courses, like financial accounting, managerial accounting. Um, and so that's kind of the exposure I had there. And then, I mean, obviously, like you learn during those courses, but actually doing it then, like in those campus jobs, is really where I like got that experience and understood how accounting really works. I mean, at least like a basic level of it, with like AP and AR stuff. But yeah.
So even going from there, where you learned that basic stuff, and then I remember when you were going to Santa Clara University, it was all during the pandemic, and then I remember, you made a big you moved to San Francisco, you lived in North Beach, and then you had a job working at this firm, which again I would say was client facing, right? Because you were working with their clients. It wasn't like you're an in-house accountant, correct?
Correct. Yeah, we were working with other clients as well, like doing fund accounting for them. Um,
Mhm.
but still, I was on my laptop doing everything just, from behind my computer screen, which is totally fine, just not for me, I guess.
Totally,
Uh,
totally, I get it.
yeah.
But it gave you like I guess even looking at it from that perspective though, you probably have a lot of, aside from the domain experience of understanding accounting, you know what it's like dealing with a client or a customer, right? Because there's always this weird sort of like, it's all about optics, right? And I'm pretty sure that was a big thing on your side of, well, how do I interact with my client to A, get the job done, B, know that I know what I'm talking about, and then C, making sure they're happy, right? Like, did you find that experience has helped you a lot with what you're doing now as a CSM?
I think like one of the like things that I'm good at with being a CSM is that I do have um I feel like a good background, like with like technical stuff.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of that did come from doing that accounting with those clients. Um,
Sure.
and I do think that does help me now, because it's really allowed me to become like a complete expert in our product, and be able to
Smart.
talk about it in a way that then the customer, the client has confidence in me that I know what I'm talking about. So yeah, I definitely think, when you put it like that, it probably did prepare me for it. But yeah.
I mean, I always say that it's your career is a body of work, right? And it could have ups and downs. You could have your magnum opus, but it all gets you to where you're at. Even the parts that seem tough, like
Mhm.
I can still look back at parts of my career where I'm just like, wow, this sucks. Like I hated going through this, but I look back and I learned something from now. And kind of the same thing, like from you, it sounds like you got that experience where it was, I call it the Goldilocks syndrome, right? Where it's like, this is too hot, this is too cold, this is just right. It sounds like being in the tech space is just right for you, because you've had the experience of trying different things out.
For sure. Yeah.
For,
And I think a big part of it is also like, I work for more of a startup. So, we definitely have been growing a lot. And with that, I've had, probably other opportunities outside of like a typical CSM role.
Mhm.
I've really gotten that exposure to, like implementation, account management, all of that combined, as well as like working closely with, our developers, our product team. It's been a really good experience to, see it from that perspective, rather than like, a larger corporation or anything.
Well, and also just, frankly, with not having like the background of a CSM, like it might have been really tough to just get a CSM role at
For
a
sure.
bigger company. Because
Mm,
I always tell this to folks, a lot of people shoot for the stars thinking I want to work for the FANG companies. But for most folks, like with no background in technology, it's not easy to just shoot for the stars and get there. Like the areas where you're going to find those opportunities are startups where you have to be nimble and you have to shift on a dime, which based on some of the stuff you've told me, you have to do that a lot, which again, it's a good thing because you got to learn a little bit of everything, as you just mentioned.
sure.
I guess talking about it, like when you were doing your, when you were doing your accounting days, right? You you were leveraging certain programs that I'm pretty sure you're talking about a lot, right? Like ERPs and stuff like that. Has that subject matter expertise, like, do you feel like that helped you get more technical, as knowing knowing the space because you had to use these applications before?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I talk about ERPs all day long now and, what our product can integrate with. And, because I've had experience with like NetSuite and, QuickBooks Desktop, QuickBooks Online, that's been like, a huge help with like being able to like talk about, our product, and even taking a step back from our product, just understanding the customer's experience. If you don't factor in our platform, like knowing the processes that they're doing in that ERP, I think has been like a tremendous help. And there's like times where, I'm pointing out things in their financial system that they're not aware of, but I just know that based on my past experience. So I think that also helps them put a lot of trust in me, and see me more as like, a consultant to them, and someone that I can, help with advising them on what the best process would be moving forward.
Yeah, and for folks on the call who do not know what any of these acronyms are, ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning, and think of it as like the lifeline for any business in terms of financial data. Any transaction that goes in, that goes out, that's the source of truth. The system of record, as you'll hear, is this is where we need to find all that stuff. So any of that information that's reporting out to Wall Street, it's pretty much coming from ERP systems. So again, we haven't talked with so many folks that came from your background with accounting. I feel like most of the times we're talking with folks that are coming more from like maybe like CRM style applications,
Mhm.
customer relationship management backgrounds, like myself. So again, it's kind of cool to have that lens. I guess through this whole journey, we talk a lot about mentorship here. Did you have any mentors to kind of get you where you're at, or do you feel like you kind of figured a lot of this stuff by yourself? Like who were your biggest influences to kind of get where you're at?
I mean, not to sound cheesy, but I mean, you, Dominic, I
I
mean,
wasn't even asking for that, like for anyone on here, but in general, again, again, I think it's always good to have someone to talk to about it.
yeah, for sure. I think it's you. I mean, like we have very similar personality types. And I feel like as I was going through college, starting out my career, you would say like, you're probably going to end up in tech. And, that's, that's what happened. And then our dad too, of course. I mean, growing up, he was always working in tech. So that's kind of what I think was the norm for our family, or I guess, encouraged in some ways. I mean, of course, we have other siblings that work in different industries, but I feel like tech was, pretty common amongst us. So probably you guys. And then I've had some really wonderful managers, for sure. Like even when I was in accounting, like really great managers that really, I think, helped instill in me like a very strong work ethic that, has led me to where I am today. And then even at my current company, tons of people, that have really mentored me, especially with it being such a huge, career change to go from accounting, into software like this and doing more client facing roles. So lots of people.
I mean, that's how it should be, right? Like you're always going to meet people, and whether it's managers, whether it's colleagues, everyone can give you something that you might need to build more of your career, and especially in a customer facing role. Like, you're not going to know until you actually just start doing it, really.
Mhm.
It's so different doing it internally, because internally it's not the same, right? Like, you have to put on a different, I don't want to say persona, but you have to think differently on what you talk to a customer
Oh,
versus you
for
talk
sure.
to someone internally.
Yeah, how you position it is everything. That's a huge thing. And I think that's something that in the beginning I had to work harder on, like, being able to do, kind of make that switch. And also, I mean, just again, going from like accounting where you're pretty much like working independently for the most part, and then having to collaborate a whole bunch in this new role. It did take some getting used to, and but I think ultimately it's been a good move. And I see, like, new people joining my team at my current company, and I think they experience the same kind of thing. And now it's kind of nice that I can be there for them because I had been in that same situation. So that's another part I've really enjoyed. Like, I've been there almost 2 years, and I've learned a lot, and I'm able to then like convey that to new people that come along and also made that same career change.
Yeah, paying it forward.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, like, I mean, I think that's great. We always talk about that too. Is like, for people that get into tech, anyone who listens here, like, the best thing you can do is try to help influence one other person who might be in the same shoes. And it sounds like you're already doing that for people that are trying to get onboarded too. I guess another thing too as well is just kind of talking more about, you're at this intersection in sort of customer success, which again, I've had this conversation with many folks before. Like, how would you even define customer success, right? Because it's such a broad, I would say it's almost a new category of what it means. But from your point of view, or at least at your company, how do you see the world as a CSM?
Yeah, I mean, it is, like you said, it's pretty broad. And I think, a big thing that we talk about at our company is really just being, like the trusted advisor for that customer, and making sure that they're aware of like all of the resources available to them. They're leveraging the product in, like, the best way possible given their situation. And so, like, at our company, we really value becoming an expert in the product, being able to provide those like creative solutions for customers so that they, have ultimately a good experience with using us. Um, so, I mean, it is pretty broad. It encompasses a lot. And then we also just, work kind of cross functionally with other teams, like our sales team.
Yeah.
We don't have like, a solutions engineering type of team at our company right now. So, the sales team really does look to my department for, any technical questions and needing creative solutions for prospects. So that's another big, component, as well as like
Pro
taking,
sales.
yeah, and then like taking the feedback from customers, relaying that to the product team. So it all kind of works. There's all of this going on between departments, and ultimately trying to make the product better and helping those customers use it today.
I guess with everything that's in your purview, what do you find the best about your job? Like, what do you like the most? Do you like doing sort of solutioning? Do you like kind of managing relationships? Do you like being more technical? What would you say of the three is your favorite?
Yeah, I definitely like the aspect of finding solutions for the customer. Like them explaining to me exactly like what their pain point is today, and like what our software can do to help alleviate that. And I like really thinking creatively. I am like a very like analytical type of person, so that's like one of my favorite things. And then, even having colleagues, we all talk about, our customers and their processes with one another. We have that constant like flow of feedback amongst each other. So working with them to help them find solutions, they help me find solutions. It's a very like open discussion amongst my team. But yeah, I really like finding solutions, fixing problems. It's my
You sound
favorite.
like a sales engineer, even though I don't have one. I mean, again, I'm biased. I
Yeah.
made the same jump from post to pre, so just
Yeah.
saying, just saying.
Mhm.
That's awesome. No, that's great. I think it's cool that you get that experience, right? Because I always tell people that, if you're coming into technology, everyone sort of thinks like, oh, hey, maybe I need to just become like a software engineer or a product manager, or there's various different types of things within the tech company, different departments. But I feel like the value of the product or I would say the value of the customer facing role, you can really chart your own path on what you want to do.
For sure.
Like you could do it all. Like if you want it. Like I would say the best PMs that I've worked with are folks that have dealt directly with customers because they understand what their needs are and what the issues are and how to drive forward a product that the customers want.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I guess, even just thinking about where you see yourself going down this path in tech, and you don't even have to know right now, but like where do you see yourself like going forward potentially, knowing
Yeah.
that it can fully change too, like did for
Yeah.
me.
I mean, right now I'm really happy with customer success, and I think it's really given me a lot of valuable skills, and I want to, in a way perfect them because I'm a bit of a perfectionist. Um, but
Very true. Audience members, very, very true. But I mean that in a good way, very good way.
yeah, I mean, I think I work very hard, and I want to kind of be an expert in my field. That's kind of where I'm at. And, like I said, like our product is changing constantly. So, it's giving me a lot of new things to still be excited about, being able to learn those, like all of the releases, all of that, really just becoming an expert in that. So I think I'm very happy with what I'm doing now. And I think this is, what I'm supposed to be doing. So yeah. I mean, I really like tech also. I think it's a good industry to work in. And yeah, I mean, a big piece that I haven't talked too much about is like those relationships with customers. I do really love that. Getting to work with so many different types of companies within my book of business. And a lot of them are, like accounting people. So being able to relate to them, understand like their struggles with month end, year end audits, all of that. I can really relate to them with that and form those relationships. So yeah, it makes me very happy where I am right now.
No, that's great. Like you said, it's all about happiness and balance. And I guess the other thing too as well is just and we talk about this transparently too as well a lot on this, is just like aside from just liking the job, it also pays really well, right? And let's be real, we live in a very expensive area in the San Francisco Bay Area, and tech jobs pay well for a reason. Otherwise, it's really tough to live out here. Like I guess from your standpoint, just kind of, did you see a big jump sort of going from those other types of roles into the tech industry?
Definitely. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, yeah,
For
yeah.
sure.
But then also it brings a whole host of stuff that you don't even really think about, like how does equity work and how does
Mhm.
you know you talk about stock options versus like RSUs, restricted stock units, right? Like, and maybe it's easier nowadays because there's more resources. But when I started out, I had no clue what any of
Mhm.
this stuff meant. Yeah, yeah. Especially getting taxed on it. Oh, that's the taxes on all equity stuff. Just it's still confusing even for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I guess aside from that, right? Like it seems that things are going well. Um, what advice would you give people right now that are trying to make a similar jump from something that's not in technology into, I would say, a customer facing, whether it could be a CSM role? Like what would you recommend for folks right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think, kind of just being very open to, different industries, different companies, all of that. Like you said, like, especially making that jump, not setting like your sights on, like a big company like, Google, Apple, like one of those, like that can be very difficult to, make that switch into one of those. If you don't have that customer success background or background in tech at all. So definitely looking out for startups, smaller companies, because with those, you have so many opportunities to get exposure to other teams, all of that. I think it's a very like beneficial place to start out, because you really do get that overview of like how everything works. And you also get like one-on-one time with, some of the leaders of your company, and get that mentorship then from them, which I think is tremendously valuable. And, people will know your name at the company, like all of that is, I think, has a huge, benefit to you, like starting in the tech industry, starting small and then like
Starting small, but I think too as well. And I would say there, you asked me a couple of years ago too as well. Everyone was just like remote job, remote job, remote job. I'm only going to work remote. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. You're on a hybrid schedule, right, at your company, right? And I think in general we're going to see a lot more of that. Do you think that people need to be more open to those types of work schedules to get these opportunities?
100%. And I think, I mean, maybe it's just how I approach work, but I think those days in the office are so valuable. Like actually like working like in person with your coworkers, seeing the other departments. Like, I'm lucky enough to work at like our headquarters. So really seeing like everyone that's part of the organization, for the most part. I definitely think you can learn a lot more by having that like or like in-person interaction. But then, it's nice also then to have that flexibility where, some days of the week you get to work from home. I think it's a really good balance, the hybrid schedule for sure.
Yeah, and I think we will see more of that. I think remote work again was kind of a blip because of COVID. A lot of the jobs I did because it was consulting based was remote, but I would say even when I was working at Salesforce, it was a lot of going into the office and things like that. And I think nowadays, if people really want the drive to do it, I think they need to be open to potential hybrid. But then also, I think you need to be open potentially to relocation if you can, because like
Mhm.
you have to kind of go where the jobs are to a certain degree too.
Right.
And right now, it seems like still, I would say it's the top places you see. It's like the Seattles, the Austins, the Bay Areas, and maybe like New York or Boston. Seems like it. I think we're seeing a couple in Nashville too as well. But for the most part, I think you're going to see where a lot of these ops are kind of springing up in certain places. And for folks that aren't like near one of those areas, if you really want it, I would say you can always pursue remote work later, but it might be in your best interest to consider that type of move. Because I just don't see us going back to a fully remote work environment. Even where I'm at right now, like I'm fully remote. I still go in every now and then. But again, the higher you go up in some of these customer facing roles, I would say you can go remote because you're mostly just talking with customers or traveling. Let's say people early in their career, they want people in an office so you can get that like experience working face to face.
For sure. For sure. And like even like thinking about my previous roles, like, the one job I had when I first moved to San Francisco, that was fully remote. And I think that also, made it harder to enjoy the job being fully remote, not having those relationships as much with my coworkers or getting those opportunities. And then I went from that to the complete opposite to being fully in person, doing accounting, which I mean it was good. I definitely had an easier time, like, relating with my coworkers, kind of seeing the operations of the company. But I think now where I'm at with the hybrid is just like the perfect balance. Having that flexibility that, you know, we do go into the office as like a company, like 2 days out of the week. But I also have, you know, the ability to go in more if I want to. Um, and I think it's like you said, the whole Goldilocks thing. It's just right. The hybrid for sure.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty common. We're seeing more of it. And again, everyone says they like the fully remote lifestyle, but I would say early in your career, like you meet a lot of people. You like some of my best friends that I've ever met were folks that I learned, gosh, back in 2010, where it was like
Mhm.
my good buddy Eric and David Choi. I met them working directly at LinkedIn way back in the day. We used to sit next to each other. And I feel like the expectations of like, oh, I don't want that. I just want to like live uh, in a town kind of far away, have a huge place, but then like, you know, I'll just be remote. It's just, it's not as glamorous as it sounds, right? Like I think getting some of that, again, I know I'm gonna have a lot of people probably be like, Dom, you're crazy, fully remote is the way to go. But I would say early in your career, it's you're just not getting the same experiences where, you know, like I remember going into the office and you meet people, you know, you meet friends. And I think people straight out of college, like that's a tough transition to meet people.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I mean, I guess it does depend on everyone's personality, but I think, you know, I definitely thrive when there's other people around and we can have that collaboration like in person. Um, so like you said, it might be because I'm earlier in my career that that's kind of where I'm at right now, and that might change in the future. But I do think it is particularly helpful, like, you know, coming out of college and, you know, actually like entering like the corporate world.
totally. Like there's a lot of folks that I would say, and I don't know if at your company have the same role, but they call it the sales development rep, right? Like the cold caller person who's cold calling. That role, in my opinion, is best when you're sitting next to other folks and you get to
For
listen to
sure.
each other talk. Because if you're just doing it by yourself, which, you know, like I did something very similar when I started, great opportunity, but you're not learning if you're not hearing other people. And it's easy to just be like, I'm gonna get stuck in my own world. And for me, I'm a pretty social person. Like if I don't see people around, I start like dwelling on things. I
Mhm.
feel like getting into the office makes you think, oh, okay, well, other people are dealing with this too. So there's this sort of empathy. There's this sort of like communal satisfaction of knowing we're in this together versus if I'm going through a rough time, I'm just kind of sulking in my room and like dwelling on everything.
Mhm. And I just think it's easier in a lot of cases, like, you know, in the office, like we'll have a question for another CSM. Like it's way easier to talk about it in person than trying to Slack it or trying to, you know, hop on a call or do like a huddle. Like it's much easier to just do it in person. And then you can even look at their computer, you can see how they're doing it. Like it's for me, I think it's a lot easier.
For sure, for sure. Well, Lucia, I want to say we're basically at time here, but I want to say thank you again for, you know, doing this. You know, how could, if people had questions, how could people get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me on there. That's probably the best way. I
Not
love
TikTok? No, I'm joking.
no, not TikTok. I do
Sorry,
want,
you know, I just figured I had to ask. You know, I
yeah, yeah.
had to ask.
Um, no, that's gonna be Dom. That's it. If you want to reach out to Dom, he's got a TikTok. Um,
Audience, let me know if you think I should create a TikTok.
you could
I'm
do
gonna
one
put
of
that
those
as.
dances. I think you would do well with a dance. But yeah, LinkedIn's a good one. I'm always scrolling on there. So yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Yes. And for folks who aren't really using LinkedIn, which honestly you're probably seeing this on LinkedIn, get a LinkedIn and start using it better. That's best
Exactly.
advice I can give you. All right. Well, audience, thanks again. Remember to like and share this with your network, subscribe, and join us every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. And, you know, comment below and let us know your favorite today from today's guest. All right. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks.